Ashley Holt is joining us. Thank you so much for being here at the Guilt Free Marketing Summit.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm so honored to be here and with you and part of this panel with so many amazing women. It's an honor.
Absolutely, you got a lot of good stuff. So we're going to just get right into it. We got to talk about you going from a Fortune 500 single mom to leading a global movement around self worth and visibility, which boy, that's a big one for everybody. So I'd love to hear about your journey and kind of your turning point and how you got to where you are now.
Well, let me clarify that as an entrepreneur, the journey is kind of like this. There's no, or it has been like that for
Right.
me anyway. So there was a point in my career where I was at a Fortune 500 corporate background, and then, life happened. Life got lifey, and it took me through a roller coaster, really. So, when I say, She Means Business is where I'm at now with the magazine. But when I created it, it was not, you know, as the corporate CEO as a Fortune 500. It was at my rock bottom because I was desperately seeking connection. And so it really started as this lifeline to connect with hopefully like-minded, high-achieving women. And as I started doing that miraculously, which is, all God, I started really being inspired by these women that I was interviewing, and that really kind of gave me this whole new life. And the result of that now is She Means Business. But I always want to clarify that that you're rock bottom because that's where I was at this point. God is still doing amazing things in your life, even though you can't see it at the
Yes.
time.
Absolutely. And so when you were stepping into She Means Business and starting this magazine, did you have that background? Was this something that you were kind of like, I'm just going to do this because I feel like I'm called to do it?
Yes, my Fortune 500 corporate background was pre-kids. And so,
Yes.
get married, I have kids, and then I was a stay-at-home mom for a little while, and it's hard to get back into the workplace. And so, I was just trying to balance the work life thing. So I was just kind of doing some things here and there. I went through my divorce, and then I went through another really traumatic relationship, and where I was financially
Mm,
dependent on my partner. And the day I left, it was not a good situation, and I had found myself very
yeah.
isolated. I didn't know what was gonna be next, but I had 2 little girls, or they were, not so little anymore, but 2 kids and literally $50 in my account. And so when I say I was
Mm,
at rock bottom, I really was, and I didn't have any friends. I was isolated. My family was not nearby, and it was sink or swim, but also surrender. And in that moment of
mm,
surrender, that I say was a moment of destruction. In the moment, it feels like that, but it was actually the reconstruction that was happening too. So, um,
yeah.
yeah, it was my
You,
darkest moment. It was definitely rock bottom, but it was also the creation of something really beautiful.
so yeah, you had to. God sometimes brings us through things to for us to recognize what what He's really calling us to,
Hmm.
and using every single experience for us to also get perspective, to say we don't want that. Let's go this direction, and we'll listen and let Him lead. You talk about self worth, like this is like a big topic. With your speaking and all that you do that you bring to women in training and all of that. Can you talk about that? You have your signature message, the confidence industry versus the self-worth economy. I would love to hear more about that.
Yes, I feel like self-worth is it was my demise, right? It was not having any. It was my battle I had, really struggled with my entire life. And so I say what started off as a snowball, if you don't address those patterns, it turns into an avalanche.
Mm,
And what are
yeah,
avalanches known for? Destruction. And, it was
yeah,
also, self-worth has to become a choice. And you have to be aware of some patterns that are going on. Otherwise, it takes on a life of itself. And that's really ultimately what led me to this rock bottom moment, right? And so when
Mm,
I was in this moment of surrender, it was really the beginning of me figuring out my own self-worth and stepping into,
mm,
I'm worth saving. I'm worthy of a bigger life. I'm here with great purpose. And, the transformation of that doesn't happen overnight, but it
right.
became a really beautiful journey that now I'm able to share, because I think confidence and self-worth are two very big hot topics. And as I was trying to write about my experience, I kept going, what is the difference? Like, what's the difference between confidence and self-worth? Because you hear all the time, be more confident, just be more confident, or, be the confident
Right.
woman. But what does that mean? And so I kind of went on this deeper dive. And, long story short, or like, I guess the simple answer is confidence is external and self-worth is internal. And then, you know,
Mm,
confidence confidence is something that's situational. It can be performative, it can be fleeting,
mm,
but self-worth is the foundation. And without self-worth, confidence collapses or can't exist at all. So it's definitely like my heart and soul, because I went through it. And I feel like it's my mission and my calling to help women understand the difference, but more importantly, what are the steps and tools and tricks or whatever, what can I do to help women
yes.
really connect to their own self-worth and put their gifts into the world?
Yeah, I mean that's a like my they say mindset shift. You got to shift the mindset. And like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. But are there any like maybe one or two tools that you might recommend to say, okay, if you're in that place and you're ready, you're like, okay, I know I've got that mindset. I know I don't want that mindset. How can I start to shift it in the direction that I know I need to go?
I have so many answers for this. But
I bet. I bet.
maybe I'll share two that really come to mind.
Okay.
But like when I was deep in it and I didn't know what was happening, um, but this kind of natural evolution that took place, when I look back and reflect, it was I had to take radical accountability of where I was. It was a moment
Mm,
I can't blame everyone else. And it was, but this, but that, oh, they did this to me. That had to stop.
mm,
And I had to say, why am I accepting this?
mm.
Why am I allowing this in my life? And if there's things going on in your life and you ask yourself that question, you're going to get some very interesting answers, which leads to the next step, which is the awareness. Because if you don't have
Mm,
awareness and don't take inventory of your life, you can't. You don't know what to change. So
right.
radical accountability, awareness, and then the third was gratitude, which
Yeah.
it's such an important step, like every day, all day, but especially in moments that seem like destruction, because at that moment of surrender, I could have, you know, I say lovingly played the victim more, but I had to say no,
Mm,
thank you. That now I can see things differently, and I accept I made some mistakes. I accept my self-worth I wasn't honoring you, God, and honoring myself. But now I'm so grateful that I get to start over. I'm so grateful that now I have some stronger truths that I can rebuild on. So those were like in it in self-reflection now that I would say. But now also I'd say um, I have a new book that's coming out, but it's 10 power moves to activate your confidence, um, amplify your voice, and align to your power. And the first step is to activate your inner superhero. So hero is actually an acronym. So it's heal, embrace, rise, and overcome. So those, of
nice.
course, I could go into a lot of more detail in, but really sit and say, hey, am I activating my inner superhero? Am I selling myself short? What are my unique gifts and talents that I am here to put in the world? And it's time to put that cape on and put them out there too.
I love your acronyms. Those are so
I am the
good. And it's kind of
acronym
like,
queen. I have 10. There's
yeah,
10 power moves, and they're all acronyms. So I got
I love it. It's so much fun. But it's kind of like, it helps us, what the concepts you're talking about. I kind of like to think of it like we need to get out of our own way sometimes, It's like in our own head, and we're like you said, we're kind of not willing to take that accountability, and we want to put it on somebody else. But it's like, okay, it's me. I know I can change. I can change who I am and the way I see things. I love gratitude. Gratitude is a big one for me. It is a game changer, I think.
game changer.
And like you said, every day in everything, even when things are going wrong, I'm saying, you know what? Thank you for whatever this means. What does this mean? Let's think about it.
Right.
And I do want to ask you about your faith. We talked about self-worth. We know our worth ultimately comes from God. So tell me about how your faith has kind of shaped what you're doing as well.
Such an interesting question because where I was in my self-worth journey, and I feel like a lot of women find that there's a self-sacrifice that comes with a servant's heart. And we want to give and we want to be of service. But when that gets out of balance, it can cause self-destruction and
Mm,
self-sabotage. And that's what happened to me.
yeah.
It's like I
Mm,
still wanted to serve and I still wanted to be everything for everyone and at my own detriment. And so I
mm,
think what this really taught me is, God wants me to serve from a full cup. And sometimes it's
yes.
so hard to sit there and allow yourself the time to say, what does make me happy? Well, isn't that's selfish, right? Like if you sit down and you think about what makes you happy and to create a life that you actually make decisions on your happiness that can be misconstrued as selfish. And what that rock bottom moment taught me is when I
Mm,
surrendered to that and I started creating a brand new life based on my happiness and my joy and my peace. That's when miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle
yeah.
unfolded in the most magical ways. And
Yeah.
so, I really feel like women, Southern women specifically too, we can just, that self sacrifice becomes self sabotage. And you've got to get a handle on that
Mm,
because God wants
mm,
you to
mm,
be happy because the happier you are, the more you're in your purpose and the more you can
yes.
ultimately give. So
Well, it's like the old saying that I love, which is if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So, mama's got to be happy. It goes for business too. So,
so true.
well, for a lot of our ladies, sometimes being seen, getting out there, promoting. We've talked about this a couple of times, especially with the idea of this being guilt free. We sometimes feel like, oh, I feel a little guilty if I'm promoting myself a little bit too much, or I'm being all that, or think I'm all that. What would you say to those ladies? What kind of advice would you give for women in business who might be a little bit timid about stepping out to be seen?
It's huge. I think I personally feel like it's the number one obstacle. It was for me. And I'll tell you a
Mm,
funny story. So kind of a big turning point for me was taking this risk to invest in myself. And when I did that, I found myself in a community of amazing, high achieving, purpose
mm,
driven women. But one, it took a lot for me to be like, oh, I'm investing myself. That's selfish, So one, that was part of
yes.
it. Um, but once and I wasn't one to, I was always kind of isolated too, because of this self worth issues. But once I got around the right people and the right women in the right community, it was no longer it was women who were like, "Get out there. What are you doing not showing up?" And it was like, "What? You're gonna support me in this?" And so like one, I couldn't have done it without them. But
Yeah.
She Means Business magazine specifically, Amberly. was actually
She's
my
like,
cover,
oh
and I
yay.
didn't know her at the time, but she was so grateful and complimentary of the magazine. But she was like, "Ashley, where are you? Like, you're not on the social media, you're not in the magazine, like, you're not even like shown as the editor. What's going on?" And I was like, um, you know,
Mm,
so this was part of the community that kind of forced me to show up. And so my kind of my introduction of myself on the She Means Business platform was me doing bloopers of like all the me trying to show up on social media, but I was so nervous and I was sweating and my heartbeat, my heart was beating out of my chest, and I had the funniest blooper video. But so I posted, and I was like, "Who is afraid to show up on social media? I'm scared to death." And
right.
the responses I got blew me away. I was like, I was just never thought anyone would actually it would resonate. And not only was it just this influx of messages of me too, me too, me too, it was women
Mm,
that were on the cover that you would never think would be scared to show up on social media.
right.
So, that was an amazing moment for me. But more importantly, at
Yeah.
that point, I said, okay, something's going on here. I know a lot of women struggle, and I have this platform. What if I start writing an article every month about this process of what it looks like to show up for yourself? And
Uh,
it was an amazing journey that I was documenting, and it's in there. And what the most amazing thing happened is the more I showed up, the more engagement there was, the more followers came in, the more people were reaching out saying thank you. I mean, I'm talking quadruple increases, and that was shocking to me. Because my background is branding and marketing and all these things. So, I can do the logos and I can make things look pretty. And so that's all I was pushing out. That's what people want to see. They don't want to see me, but you know what? They do. They want to see you and what you're doing and how you're doing it. And when you do it in an authentic way, it becomes magnetic. And it's still shocking to me. Like, I'm still kind of dealing with what happened through the process. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting to document the experience and like what I was really feeling as I went through it.
I love that because I think you're right where there's the outside what you think what everybody thinks, and then it's like really what's really going on and you're like, okay, I'm freaking out right now. And I love the authenticity, like when people are authentic and they're real and they're not perfect and all the things, that is so much more endearing to me. I mean, I'm guilty of that. Ooh, it's got to be polished. It's got to be this, that, and the other thing. I'm very, critical of myself. But the ones that are just off the cuff and I got no makeup on or whatever, people seem to like those. And I go,
Always,
you
always.
really like
Spend
that?
the most time making
Okay.
the prettiest are the ones that perform the least. And so part of that talk with the self worth economy is that um, we've gotten to a place where we feel like worth has to be earned, where everything has to
Mm,
be perfect or performative, and it's not. It's really
yes.
just something we choose. And I always say, self worth is the David and Goliath moment. You have to show up
Mm,
so God can show out.
yeah.
And I
Yes.
remember that, now it's like, stop hiding. Like, this isn't about me. This is about something bigger. And give it, give it, give
Yes.
it to Him, and He's going to show out for sure. I mean, He has for me over and
Well,
over and over.
and I think that, with the idea of authenticity, especially where we are now with a lot of AI,
Mm.
AI coming on the scene, and you're kind of like, is that really that person? Is that really their voice? Is that, those types of things. So, I think getting on calls like this or getting on a Zoom call or meeting in person, and connecting with people personally, social media, yes, absolutely. And you can tell when things are overly polished. You're like, I think that might be AI. But it's getting harder to tell. So I would say, continue to build the relationships. You talked about community. And a lot of times women in business, I have friends who are not in business. I love them dearly, but they don't understand a lot of the things that I'm talking about, or I'm doing, or I'm stressed about, or that type of thing. So finding the community of women in business who will support you and say, just like Amberly said, well, where are you? Let's get you on there. Let's do this. And we gotta have that. We gotta have the community.
Well,
Gotta have it.
and we've got to support each other. This is a new, I
Yes.
feel like I am seeing such a shift in women supporting each other now, like within the last year. And
Yes.
like, maybe it's just because I've been putting myself out there more, but
Yeah.
the, you know, we are, your tribe is so important. And,
Mm-hmm.
it took me, I'm 47, it took me 47 years to find. So I
Right.
value it and cherish it with all of my heart, and I think that's why, this platform means so much to me, because it's not a brand, it's not a magazine. This is a place to come, and it's a community
Mm.
that's safe to grow stronger together. And yes, it's under She Means Business, but it's to learn from each other so we know we're not alone. Like, no one on these
Yeah.
covers didn't have any strife or obstacles or rock bottoms
Right.
or breakdowns, you know? And
Yeah.
so the more we
Yes.
share these stories, the more we talk or embrace our stories in entirety, you know, it's not just about the accolades and the highlights and everything good. It's like,
That's
what
right.
happened in the darkest moments? How'd you get out?
Mm.
And
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, stories are powerful, and as you know, in marketing and branding, it's about the story. What's the story, and what's the heart behind it? What's your why? All of those things are so important. That's what people want to hear. They want to connect with you, not just that's great that you provide these services, but who are you, and who do I get to work with? I think that's really, really important right now.
1,000,000%. Also, for
Yeah.
so many women that maybe they're just in the idea phase and they're like, well, how do I bring this idea to life? I have the brand method for She Means Business, but it's not about, because I did it wrong. Like, I started with the logos and the colors and making everything pretty because that was my background and I was hiding behind everything. But the
Mm,
secret is creating the brand from the inside out, you know. So
yes.
start there.
I like that. Well, so we talked a little bit about self-worth and that type of thing, and you have said that as women rise in self-worth, they don't just change their lives; they're changing the world. Tell me about how you feel about that.
I feel like that's what I learned as I was writing the stories of so many amazing, powerful women who allowed me to have that honor to tell their gift. Them standing in their story, the good, the bad, the ugly, the success as well, it changed everything for me.
Mm,
And
yeah,
when you're able to stand in your worth, which means standing in the good, the bad, and the ugly, and
yeah,
being able to share that, it's a ripple effect. And I
mm,
just, I feel so strongly about that because that happened to me. And I know that's my gift to give back. Like, I never want
yeah.
to sit here, like I said at the beginning of this interview, like, the Fortune 500 thing was there, but let me tell you about, like, what's actually more important,
Right.
right? That the Fortune 500
Yes.
thing, that to me is like so unimportant. But yeah, it's
Right.
still, but it's part of my journey. But I think, it's
Yeah.
all about the ups and downs and sharing that. But it, when women embrace their story and they can share it, it changes people's lives.
It does. Absolutely. Well, you mentioned your brand method, and I understand you have a free gift for us. Tell us about that.
Yes, yes. So, um, like I said, I went on this journey of showing up for myself and what that visibility journey looks like. And as I am with women, I know that so many have these great ideas, but then there's, what's next? How do I do this? And I see so many things. It's expensive. It can be expensive to create the website and to, if you don't have time, you need a social media person, or just all these expenses add up. but how can you do it on your own? And you don't need all
Mm,
those fancy things. It starts from the inside out. But the brand method, it is a workbook, but I have a digital format as well. That's the free gift today. So it also includes that visibility journey I went on, and then
okay.
just some brief highlights on how to create a brand if you're really just getting started, or if you're, maybe you're been in business and you want to do a rebrand or expand that. But it's build, refine, attract, name your niche, and my favorite is D, drop the mic, because you want to stand out, right? So, but it
Nice.
just gives some quick branding tips. But more importantly, I hope it inspires people to show up for themselves and to be more visible with their gifts.
I love it. What a great gift. Thank you for your generosity. And thank you, Ashley, for sharing your wisdom and your story and all the good things
Oh,
today.
thank you for this platform. Thank you for what you're doing to support women. It's beautiful, and I'm honored to be here again. Thank you for letting me be part of it.